stream is up. Okay. So negative 75, 5x minus 3y equals 18. Okay, so they want us to reflect said point. First thing I would do is sketch the point and the line. So if you need to graph the line however you need to graph it, it's up to you. Let's see, I know it's, what, 0, negative 6. And if y is 0, you get just over 3. So it's kind of like, let's make the dot bigger. So like something along those lines is what you're graphing. So if we want to reflect it, so this is our point, what they call it, P, I think. Yeah, P. So this is point P. If we reflect it across, it's going to flip somewhere over here and be P prime. Anytime you move a point or reflect a point or do anything like that, it gets a little prime notation. It does not mean derivative in geometry. So at that point, you have to figure out how am I going to get that. Couple of things. Easiest way to do it is if I connect these 2 points with a line, it's going to cross right in the middle there. So if I can find this point to that point, I can find that. So the easiest way to do it is to draw kind of like slope triangles. And find our delta y, delta x, delta y, delta x. Those two values will be the same, so basically create 2 little slope triangles. The question is, how do you find the delta y and delta x values? Anybody have any ideas on how to do that? Now that I've kind of set you in a direction. I assume most people probably struggled with this problem.
I struggled with this problem.
That's fine. But like I said, now that I'm setting you in a direction right now, giving you an idea of what to do, the question is, how could I possibly find the delta y and delta x? Any ideas? Okay, I'll give you a little hint. In case you don't know, when you draw the line like this and connect them, the shortest path here is going to be the direct line, which is going to make that perpendicular. So those do form a right angle when they intersect. Any ideas now?
Can you find the midpoint of the 2 intersections and then find the slope and then do a perpendicular line?
Something along this. I'm just curious how you find the midpoint of what? Be more specific there.
So you know where they intersect at the x and the y, like the line?
You mean the x and y intercepts?
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to find the midpoint?
Find the midpoint?
Unfortunately, no, because we don't know. I mean, based on my drawing, it kind of looks like it's maybe in the middle, but that's just like a drawing representation. I don't really know where that point is, so it's not necessarily the midpoint. But instead, what we can do is focus on finding, you are correct, find that point right there where they intersect. So we're going to find the intersection of the 2 lines. So we have the line given to us already, so I just need to refine an equation for the other line. The important part to figure out and realize here is that they intersect at right angles. So now I know the slope of this line right here. If I know the slope of this line and I have a point, I can write that equation. So I have this equation, this one. So if you solve this one for y, what is it? You get y is equal to 5/3 x minus 6. Is that right? Yeah. So that's this line right here. I need the equation for this line right here, so this is going to be y minus 5 is equal to negative 3/5 x plus 7 for that line there. So I use the point they gave me, because I know that point's on the line, and the fact that it has they are perpendicular, so they have opposite reciprocal slopes. So now I have the equation of two lines, and I just need to find their point of intersection. So you could do it multiple different ways. You can either you can substitute this in, you can set it equal. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to substitute that in over there. So I get 5/3 x minus 6 minus 5. I'm going to go ahead and distribute negative 3/5 x minus 21 over 5. So you get that equation by substituting in the equation they gave us that solve for y into the one I just wrote. And then solve for x. So it should be pretty straightforward. Again, you don't have to do anything with the fractions. Your calculator does the fractions for you, so don't worry about that. So I'm going to add the 3/5, so I get 5/3 x plus 3/5 x. I'm going to move the 11 over, plus 11. And you don't have to add any fractions yourself. The calculator will do all the fractional adding for you, so don't worry about doing any of that. I just don't know what those are off the top of my head. So is that 30? Let's see, that times 5, that's 25. Yeah, so times, 5 over 5, that's 25 over 15x. And then that's 9. So that's what, 34 over 15x. That's 55, so 29. If I did that right in my head. And then just multiply by the reciprocal, so 29. Divided by 5 times 15 divided by 34. Times 15. Oh, no, that looks like I made a mistake somewhere. Did I move that over properly? Yeah, it's 5/3 x minus 6. Yep. Y minus 5 is equal to negative.
It's not 21/5.
Why is it not 21/5? Did I do something wrong?
I had 4/5. You didn't go back and add the 5 from the 21/5. Forgot to add the 5 on the left side when you solved for it.
I have that over here as the minus 5 right here.
Yeah, you didn't add the 5 to the.
Yeah, because it's make negative
When
11 plus 11.
Oh. Then, yeah.
Let's play Find the O'Donnell error. Did I add the left-hand side correctly? I think I did.
Wouldn't it be 34 over 5?
34
Oh,
15.
yep. Thank you. I can't add in my head correctly. Thank you, Thomas. I, for some reason, didn't do 55. I did, like, 50. That'll work. So then x equals 3. Perfect. Thank you, Thomas. See? This is why we don't do fractions in our head, kids. Especially not at 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so x equals 3. So that means I know the value of this point is 3 comma blank. I need the blank, so you can plug into whichever one you want. I'll plug into the easy one. And you get 5 minus 6, which is -1. So now that gives me that point, so I can find delta y and delta x very easily. So from -7 to 3 is a value of 10. So that means this delta x also needs to equal 10. And from 5 to -1 is -6. So this delta y is also equal to -6. So p prime is the point. So if I go 10 more right, that's 13. And if I go down 6 more, that's -7. Moral of the story: don't do fractions in your head. They'll screw you over. Also, don't do any calculations in your head. You have a calculator for everything. Again, I don't really expect you guys possibly to get that off the top of your heads, but does what I did make sense? Silence isn't very helpful.
Yeah, we got it.
I can't tell when nobody says anything.
Sorry, they're still banging on my house. I didn't want to be rude, make it very loud for everyone.
Okay, so moving on to 8. I think we've done a question just like 8 already, haven't we? Yeah, at least 1, 2, I think. Okay, so work through it real quick. Find points A and B. Do I need to find the intersection for anybody?
No.
Okay, nobody said yes, so find the intersection should be pretty easy. Just make sure you multiply through by x, you'll get a quadratic. Obviously, there's 2 answers, which is why you get A and B. Do I need to find the perpendicular bisector of AB for anybody? Okay, number 9. Probably, I guess I need to number 9. It's different than what we've done before. So we have a line, intersects a circle at that point. Find the other point. Okay. So it gave us a line, a point, a circle equation. Okay, so I just need to substitute that in. The only problem is I need a value for m. Anybody have any ideas how to find the value for m?
You plug the point into the equation with the value for m.
They gave you a y and an x. So just like we talked about yesterday, if you need to solve an equation for a variable, you need to have everything but that variable. I don't know what the equation of the circle was off the top of my head. X squared, y squared, 19x 51. And then the point was 511. Okay. So they gave us point to P was 511. So I just need to plug that in to find my m value. So 11 equals 5x plus 1, or 5m plus 1. So m equals 2. So the equation of our line is y equals 2x plus 1. I'm just going to take that, substitute it in there, is the easiest way to solve for my other point. So I get x squared plus 2x plus 1 squared. X squared plus 4x plus 1. Combine all of my like terms, I get 5x squared minus 15x minus 50 equals 0. Very fortunately for us, everything is divisible by 5 at that point, making our lives tremendously easier. If I could put proper numbers, minus 5. So we know x is equal to 5 and negative 2, which is a good sign because one of our answers, x coordinate is 5. If I did not get that 5 value for x, that means I did something wrong because one of them has to be that 5 value, the other one being negative 2. Then with the coordinates, I believe. Yeah. So Q has the coordinates of negative 2 comma something. I need to figure out what that something is. Easiest way to do it, plug it into your line, not your circle. So if x is negative 2, then I get y to be negative 3. And hopefully that is correct. Yeah, it's correct. Okay. Make sense? Any questions?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
B, find the equation of the perpendicular bisector. We've done like 6 of those by now. But if I do need to do it for anybody, please ask, guys. Like, anybody need me to find the perpendicular bisector of PQ?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thick neck squad. That was a creepy laugh, bro. So PQ, so perpendicular bisectors obviously are perpendicular, and remember bisect means cut in half, so that means I need the midpoint of PQ. I'll keep those because I don't know if I need that for anything else. So I need the midpoint, so 5 plus negative 2 over 2, and 11 plus negative 3 over 2 is my midpoint. So I'm going to call that M. So I get 3 halves and 4. So there's my midpoint. I also need the slope, so little m is equal to 11 minus negative 3 over 5 minus negative 2, 14 over 7, so the slope is that. So my perpendicular slope is negative 1/2. So I need the line to have a slope of negative 1/2 because that's perpendicular to a slope of 2. And then it has to go through the midpoint, which is the 3 halves, 4. So I get y minus 4 is equal to negative 1/2 x minus 3 halves. And you can leave it just like that. And there is your line. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yes.
Ashley, are you good? Okay, I'm going to assume by her silence she's okay. And then C, find the x-coordinates where the perpendicular bisector intersects the circle. So that's just the same thing. You just plug that into the equation of the circle. It becomes not nice because it is fractions, so it sucks, but it is what it is. Can't do much about that. So you get y is equal to plus 3/4 plus 4, so negative 1/2 x. Let's see if I can do this one right. 16 19/4. And then you just take this, plug it in again there, and square it. That's not pretty fractions, so probably not going to end up factoring very nicely, so I would assume the quadratic is going to be especially when it says give your answers in exact form. And yeah, they have square roots in them. So quadratic, as soon as you plug that in, combine all your like terms, just use the quadratic equation. Do I need to do that for anybody?
Can you?
Yeah. So you get x squared plus minus 51 equals 0. So this ends up being 1/4 x squared. Jesus. I was at 19/8. So 38 eighths x. Anybody know what 19 squared is? 'Cause I don't.
It's 360.
361.
Thank you. And then just combine your like terms. So here I get 5/4 x squared. What's 19 times 8?
$152.
So that's 60, 90 plus 198 x. What's 51 times 16?
816.
Jesus. I can't do
Wait,
that.
why are you multiplying them?
To get them to common denominator so I can add these two fractions.
Oh, okay.
Um, 816 minus 361, because I'm not even venturing to do that in my head. 454.
I have 455 over 16.
450. Yeah, 455, because I'm dumb. See, this is why you don't do fractions
And
in your
then
head, too.
the 190 over 8 simplifies to 57 over 2.
I don't really care, because I'm going to put it in the quadratic at this point. So at this point, you have your a, b, and c, so just put it in quadratic. So b squared is negative 190 over 8 squared, or not squared, not yet anyway. So negative b makes that a positive b, plus or minus the square root of 190 over 8 squared minus 4 times 5/4 times negative, yep, 455 over 16 over 5/2. And the reason I don't care that any of this simplifies is because I'm putting all of that in my calculator. Even though it says leave it exact, which is fine, but I'm going to put all of this in my calculator and then tell it to give me a fraction. Both your graphing and your scientific calculators can do that. I am not going to expect you to do that by hand. I don't want you to do it by hand. Literally do it in the calculator. And then you just need to simplify your radical at that point. So it's not pretty, but it's not ugly, or not the worst thing in the world. I've seen much worse. Yeah, you just do that in a calculator and you're done. And then simplify it. You'll get the answers they show there. Any questions?
Nope.
Every time I tried to simplify this, it didn't work.
That's because you're dumb. I'll do it real quick. So, parentheses 190 divided by 8 squared minus 4 times 5/4 times negative 65, bless you.
Thank you.
So I get that the inside is 2825 over 4. Over 4 over 5/2. You should know how to simplify this. The over 4 part comes out, so that is square root of 2825 over 2. And then you should be able to simplify your radical. You're in calculus, I expect you to be able to do that. But clearly that's divisible by 25 at least, because it ends in 25. So you can go from there. Okay. Number 10, we got a nice little triangle here. A and B, gradients of A, B, A, C, and BC. Just to clarify, just to double check and make sure, does everybody understand what it means when it says 2m, negative 2m, and m respectively?
Yes.
Does anybody not know what that respectively means?
What does that mean?
Okay, so it means that, well, it's not funny. I mean, a lot of people have heard that word and not never done that kind of stuff before. That's why.
Wait, does that mean like the m is, they're all the same m's?
Well, they are all the same m because it's the same variable. The respectively means that AB goes with 2m. So AB is first, 2m is first. AC is second, negative 2m is second. They go together, et cetera, et cetera. So it's telling you that the order that they're given to you in the list of them, so AB, AC, BC, that's 1, 2, 3. 2m, negative 2m, and m are also 1, 2, 3. So they go. That's how they go together. So it's just a quicker way of listing things. Instead of saying the slope gradient of AB is 2m, the gradient of AC is negative 2m, and the gradient of BC is m, they can just say respectively. That means the order they're presented in both lists go together.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's like I said, that's something that I know a lot of people may not have encountered before. So those are things like that that unfortunately can cause you to get a question wrong, even though you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I didn't know what that respectively meant, but I kind of put it together that like the lines and the slope footing.
Yeah. So I'm going to assume everybody can do A and find the gradient of AB, and then figure out that m is half of that value. Thomas, stop, like, I don't know what you're doing with the mic, bro, but question B, find the coordinates of C. Do we have any ideas how to do that? Because that's not as evident as part A. So how are we going to find the coordinates of C?
Can you find the... Okay, so this is how I did it and I got it. Find the slope for AC and then... Okay, yeah, that is how I did it. Find the slope for AC and do the same for BC. And then equal them to each other. Like, once you get one of the variables by itself.
That's a terrible way of saying that, but yes, that is correct.
Cool.
So you want to find the equation for the line for AC and the equation for the line of BC because you have a point on both. And for part A, we know the value of m, so we know their slopes. Instead of saying set them equal to each other, find the point of intersection of the lines. Much better way of saying that, by the way. So yes, so you find the line equation for AC, which they give you the point A, and you now know the slope from part A, which part A, so the first part, and do the same thing for BC because you know its slope from part A, and you also have the point B, and then just find the point of intersection. Does anybody need me to do that? If yes, please say yes. Going to take the silence as a no.
That would be a smart thing to do.
Huh? Okay.
Huh?
You said that would be a smart thing to do, and I'm confused.
Taking the silence as a yes.
Oh, okay. That's not how I understood that.
Dang.
Part C, perpendicular bisector of AB. Oh god, more perpendicular bisectors. Of AB meets BC at D. Okay, that's actually not too bad. So again, what's it mean to be a perpendicular bisector? What do I need? I need the midpoint and slope.
Slope.
I already have the slope, fortunately. Finding the midpoint should be hopefully relatively easy because I gave you A and B. And then just find where the two lines intersect. So that's pretty straightforward, I think, at this point, by how much we've done. Anybody need me to do that? Show anything? Okay, number 11. A and B. Okay, another perpendicular bisector. This time they want it in slope-intercept form. That shouldn't be a big deal. B, a point on C on the perpendicular bisector has coordinates P, Q. The distance OC is 2, where O is the origin. Write down the equation involving P and Q and hence find the coordinates. I'm going to assume I probably need to show that. Okay. Okay, so the first thing is I need the answer for the perpendicular bisector, so 2x minus 2. So we know our perpendicular bisector from part A, that I'm assuming everybody did, because perpendicular bisector part's pretty easy, is 2x minus 2. And then we know a point C, OC is 2. Okay. So again, highly suggesting drawing sketches of graphs and stuff. So -2, see a rise of 2, run of 2. So it's what, 0, -2, and 2, 0, -2, 0, -2. So there's your line, quick sketch. We know this is point O. We know the distance from O to C is 2. I think I found it. There's a couple of them actually. Is there going to be more than one answer? Yeah, there's going to be more than one answer. Well, very easily, I think I've found that without doing any work because they're the intersections. Or did I do my slope wrong on that one? I did do my slope wrong on that one. That's 1, 0. Because I apparently don't know how to do slope either this morning. So I found one of the points by accident by doing that. We're still going to show the work out for finding them and find the other one. So we know that the distance from O to C is 2. Okay, bye Bridget. So distance from O to C is 2. Obviously we have one here. We're going to have another one somewhere up here. So basically just use your distance formula to find that. So you know one of the points is 0, 0, and you're looking for P and Q. So you know that the distance, remember, is the square root, in case you don't have it, the whole formula, plus y2, y1 squared. So that is your distance formula. So distance equals. So we know one of the points is 0, 0, and then we're going to solve for the other one. So it doesn't matter where you put the zeros. I'm going to put it in for x1 and y1 because it just makes it easier. So 2 is equal to the square root of p minus 0 squared plus q minus 0 squared. So you get 2 is equal to the square root of p squared plus q squared. The problem is, how do I then solve this one equation with 2 variables? How do I solve one equation with 2 variables? Anybody help me out there?
Substitute.
What do you mean substitute?
You solve for one and then put it in there for that one, and then
But where do I solve for that one?
I don't know. I'm just trying to help.
You're good, buddy. That is correct. We do need to have a second equation, which is what I was trying to get out of Nolan there. You can't ever solve one equation with two variables. You need a second equation. Where do I get that second equation from? Well, not only are they a distance of 2 away, they're also on my line. The y equals 2x minus 2. So if I put p and q in there, I get that q is equal to 2p minus 2. And I now have a second equation. It's already solved for q for me, so I'm going to plug that in first to solve that one. So I get 2 is equal to the square root of p squared plus 2p minus 2. That's a terrible p. 2p minus 2 squared. Square both sides. I'm going to go ahead and distribute. Minus 8p plus 4. Ooh, that's nice. The 4's cancel for us. So we get 0 equals p squared 5p squared minus 8. 8p, sorry. Which is very easily factorable. So I'm going to have to come up over here. And you get 0 is equal to p times 5p minus 8. So p equals 0 and 8/5. And then plug in to find q into the equation you already have up there. So q is equal to 2p minus 2. So we already obviously knew the 1 was 0. So you get q is equal to 2 times 0 minus 2. And q is equal to 2 times 8/5 minus 2. 16/5 minus 10/5, so 6/5. If I did those fractions right in my head. Looks like I did. Does that make sense, hopefully? Okay. 13. Is that everything for 12 or for 11? Yes, okay. Any questions on that part? Okay, number 12 gives us coordinates of A and C. Midpoint is M, okay. And the perpendicular bisector of AC cuts the x-axis at B. Find the equation of MB and the coordinates of B. Shouldn't be too hard. Do I need to show that for anybody? Do I need, I mean, you had the answer, so. Okay, so it looks like we're good on perpendicular bisectors then. Okay. Show that AB is perpendicular to BC. Okay. Oh, look at that. The answer is proof again. I wonder if anybody wrote proof. Any questions on how to show that they're perpendicular? You're really not proving anything. You're showing in this case. So the question is, how do you show that they are perpendicular? Like, how do you show that two line segments are perpendicular?
Either graph them
Oh,
or
okay.
find the perpendicular like slope.
You can't graph that. Well, I mean, you could graph them, but that's not going. Graphing them does not show they're perpendicular in any way, shape, or form.
I don't know. You said show, so I was like, do you actually want a visual?
No, you just need
I
to
did the
show.
slope.
Show that they have opposite negative reciprocal slopes.
That is correct. So find the slope of AB, find the slope of BC, and be like, hey, opposite reciprocals, therefore perpendicular. Done. Yeah, you're not going to actually do any real proof in ACE Math outside of what you guys call a trig proof, which isn't really a proof. Again, you're just showing that something has there. It's an identity is what it's called in trig. So you don't ever actually do a real proof of any sort. You're showing things or just showing that this is that. So when they put the answer of proof, they're just basically like, hey, we showed this. There's no real actual proof, especially when you see that it's only a 2-point question. There's going to be very minimal amount of work. Again, look at the points that are on that question if they show you. Part A was 5 points. Part B is 2 points. That means that this is going to be very minimal work compared to what you did in A. C, given that ABCD is a square, find the coordinates of D and the length of AD. That's pretty easy, because we know squares are all right angles, all side lengths are the same, etc., etc. So I would definitely be drawing out a picture for part C to help myself realize what's going on, where A, B, C, and D are, because you already have A, B, and C. So you know D just has to go opposite to C. That shouldn't be too bad though. It's only 2 points again, so you're not going to have to do a tremendous amount of work. Really, you're using slopes there to just find where the missing side of a square is. So to kind of draw it out without doing all the work to show you what I mean by that, in case anybody's confused. And I don't know if this 100% pertains to this problem or not. So let's see, A, B, C needs to be like here. So if this is A, B, and C, and actually I'm going to corner those a little bit. So put B there and A like there. So if I already have A and C, obviously I know D has to be somewhere up the top. So D has to go somewhere there. The question is, well, how do I find it? So what you would use is your delta y and your delta x here. The sides opposite of each other have to have the same delta y and delta x. It just goes in, depending on how you find your delta y and delta x. Usually this one has to go up and then right. This one, most people would go down and left. Doesn't matter how you do it. But you do have to just go up and like right like that. That's one way of doing it, or you could use this line here and go from A to D. It doesn't matter which way you do it. So you know, you could have done the same thing there with this being delta x and this being delta y. These delta x's and delta y's are different, but you could do it that way as well. Either way you do it doesn't really matter, but that's all they're expecting you to do. So like I said, it's a 2-point question, so you're going to get like 1 point for the answer by doing it correctly, and then 1 point for the length of AD, because that's just Pythagorean theorem. Does that make sense? Any questions on what I said? Okay. Number 13, we have A and B are on a circle. Find the equation of the perpendicular bisector. Geez, they really like perpendicular bisectors in this section. Okay, I'm going to assume everybody can do part A at this point because nobody asked anything about the last perpendicular bisector. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, use your answer to part A to find the value of P. That's not how I would have done it, but why do we need the perpendicular bisector to find P? Apparently this should be really easy too, because it's 1 point. So 1, -2 is here. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, at this point I have no idea how you're using the perpendicular bisector to. Let's draw it out. 1, -2. Oh, that's -1. 1, -2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is A, B. Six comma. So if these are on the circle, that means the center has to be somewhere like here. Oh, I assume that has to be on this. So, something like that. I wonder if that has to be true. Oh, yeah, I guess it is. So the center has to be on the perpendicular bisector. Didn't know that. Nice little fact there. So I don't think anybody probably got B because I didn't know that was true for B.
I got it, but I don't know
I mean, you can get the answer for P, but it would not be quite so simple. I would use two distance formulas and set them equal, et cetera, et cetera. But if you take the answer from y is equal to negative 2/3 x plus 3, that is your perpendicular bisector from part A. If you, since we know this is 6 comma P, if I plug 6 into there, so y of 6 is equal to negative 2/3 6 plus 3, yeah, you get negative 1, and that is your answer. So fun fact, did not know this because, well, and I even taught geometry, so fun fact, apparently the center of a circle is on the perpendicular bisector for any 2 points on the circle.
The more you know.
Oh, that makes sense. And the reasoning why, because this is our, I'm just going to call this value B, little b. That's little b. I know that's a right angle, that's a right angle. So this line has to create, because it creates two congruent triangles. But again, no, did not know that. No, would not expect you guys to know that. This is that thing where you go, what the hell type idea. And I understand, because I wouldn't have known that. I didn't know that fact myself. So I definitely don't expect you guys to know that. But you can still find P. I would have set up two distance formulas personally and did it that way. But that's a lot of work, and once I noticed it was 1 point, I knew it had to be a lot easier than that. Plus, you're using your answer from part A. That's the hint there. So you use that line segment there. And about the only thing you can do for 1 point is plug a value in. So kind of use that power of deduction that hopefully you guys have and can use to figure that out. Unlike me, because I did not figure that out right away. Okay. And then equation of the circle. Everybody know how to write the equation of a circle? Yes, no, maybe? Does anybody
Yes.
not know the equation of a circle from pre-calc? Okay. All right, moving on to question 14. ABCD is trapezium. That's a trapezoid in case you don't know. With AB parallel to DC, BAD is 90. All right, cool. Thank you for that information. Calculate the coordinates of D. Okay, so 2 points, 2 lines of intersection again. Wow, that's 7 points. So that's a lot of work. So in this case, I would find the equation for line AD, since you know that it's a 90-degree right angle. That means they're perpendicular, so opposite reciprocal slopes. So you just need the slope from my friend cut out. Sorry, you need the slope from AB, which you can find, and then you know the slope for AD is perpendicular to that, so it's opposite reciprocals. And then CD is parallel to AB, tells me that. So just, I can write the equation of those lines and find the points of intersection. Do I need to do that for anybody? Or does what I've said make enough sense to where you think you can get it, or have already gotten it, hopefully?
It makes sense.
Okay. And then I'm really going to hope everybody knows the area of a trapezoid equation.
Actually, could you go over that again?
So it's 1/2 the height of the trapezoid, base 1 plus base 2. And remember, the bases are the parallel sides. So in this case, this I would call base 1. This is base 2. That's my height. And you just use the formula. B1 plus B2.
Can I like write that formula on like the back of my hand before my test so I can remember it?
Which test are you talking about?
Any of them.
Well, on AP, you get a formula. You can write down whatever the hell you want. On ACE, no.
Damn it.
Sorry. And we'll get ready to discuss that here in just a second. So we have to talk about a couple things. Equation of curve, xy is 12, blah, 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 blah. Find the midpoint of AB. Okay, so that's intersection again. We've done plenty of those. They give you the k value for this one, so they're going to change k probably for part B or whatever. Yeah, so just substitute in, solve for your 2 coordinates, and then find the midpoint. The extra part here is finding the midpoint. I think we should be able to do that pretty easily. Please tell me you guys are figuring this out. What are you going to do when it says it intersects the curve at 2 distinct points? Anybody help me out.
Equations equal to each other.
Okay,
A discriminant.
So you will not set them equal to each other. You will substitute in, because you do not want to solve xy, but however, that was not what I was looking for. After you do that, as Kayla pointed out, use the discriminant. You're going to get a squared relationship, which means you're going to need to use a discriminant. What do you know about the discriminant if you want 2 distinct points? Oh, you guys are killing me. I'm dying right now on the inside.
Huh?
I said you guys are killing me, and then I'm dying on the inside.
No, I heard that part. What did you say before that?
I asked, what do we know about the discriminant if we're looking for 2 distinct points or 2 distinct
It's greater
answers?
than 0.
Greater than 0.
Thank you. I can always count on my 2 Asians. That's a bad joke. Anyway, yes, greater than 0. Discriminant being greater than 0 means you have 2 distinct answers. What if I wanted 1 answer?
Equals 0?
Equals 0. What if I wanted no answers?
Less than 0.
Skip it.
Skip it. Oh, God.
Well, he's not wrong.
He is wrong, 100% wrong.
Well, if you skip it, there's no answer.
You have to find an answer to make sure there is no answers. And yes, Nolan, less than 0. You guys have got to remember your discriminant and what those answers mean. If your discriminant is greater than 0, 2 answers. If your discriminant is equal to 0, 1 repeated answer. And if your answer is less than 0 for the discriminant, you have no real solutions. So if I want the curve, the line to meet the curve, that's going to be a squared relationship, as it is in this case, then you're going to get a quadratic of some sort, and you solve for k using the discriminant. We've seen it multiple times. 16. And especially when they say find the set of values as another little hint, that means there's usually going to be some sort of inequality answer, either like from, let's say, 2 to 5, or it could be like less than 2 and greater than 5, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what they mean when they say find the set of values like that. That's another hint that there's an inequality involved. And we know we're using inequalities in the discriminant. Alright, 16. Everybody should be able to do A, find the equation through AB. Oh wow, that's real easy. Show the perpendicular bisector of the line is that. Again, we've done a lot of perpendicular bisectors. Nobody's asked any questions lately. A circle passes through AB and has its center on the line x equals 15. That uses the fact we just learned earlier that the center will be on the perpendicular bisector. So you just plug the 15 into the perpendicular bisector equation to find your y value, then write the equation of the circle. So that's pretty easy. Now that we know that fact, you might want to write that fact down to study it just in case you get one of those. I don't know. They seem to like that. It's 2 questions that's appeared on so far. And then to get through 17, we got a circle. Find the radius of the circle and the coordinates. So that's going to be completing the square back from pre-calc. So I hope everybody remembers how to do that. I know we know how to do complete square because we've done it a lot, but hopefully everybody remembers how to write the equation there. So you would subtract the 4, then complete the square and go from there. Find the x coordinates of the points where the circle crosses the x-axis. Okay, so that's pretty easy. What does it mean that the circle crosses the x-axis? Anybody please help me? What does it mean if the circle crosses the x-axis?
There's an x-intercept. Or, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Which means what? How does that help us answer this question?
At some point, y is equal to 0.
Thank you, Thomas. That means y is equal to 0. So you plug in 0 for y and solve for x. Done. Notice how it says give your answers in exact form. That lets you know there's going to be a square root, most likely. And there most definitely is on this problem. But yes, anytime you see it's on the x-axis or it crosses the x-axis or it's an x-intercept, gotta remember y equals 0. 2, show that that point lies on the circle, just plug it into your equation for the circle. That's really not that hard. It's a 2-point question, not very difficult. And they give you the equation of the circle at the top, so just plug those values for x and y in, make sure it equals 0. It does. Great. And then show that the equation of the tangent to the circle at A is that. We all know how to find tangents. So that's just a very weird because the derivative sucks. But we all know how to find tangents. Find the derivative, plug it in. So you could do this in a couple different ways. I would suggest doing the derivative of the equation from part A that you write, basically, when you find the radius in the center. So I would do that, not the y squared one. If you're doing the derivative of the y squared one, it becomes a little more difficult. And you have a lot more y primes. But you could do it either way. It doesn't really matter. So practice that, and if you need help, please message me since I know we kind of ran out of time. But a couple of things to talk about as our impending date of the AP exam comes ever closer, with roughly 2 weeks left. So in case you don't know, as seniors, your last day is the 11th. You should know that by now, hopefully. But that being said, with the test being on the 12th, obviously, I'm not going to push for an AICE exam before that date. So if you would like to get your passing AICE credit, you will need to attend a little bit of extra class after that. So that way I can get credit, or I can get some resources for you, basically then the stuff that I can use to grade you on. So it'll be slightly after that. I do apologize. I wish it was different, but with the testing dates and all this, with AP coming up, that's a little bit different.
Wait. Sorry, my bad.
Go ahead. You're fine. What was your question?
If I don't need the AICE credit, do I still need to take the AICE test for like a final grade for the class?
Do you want to have a U as an AICE exam grade?
God dang it, I was about to say the same thing.
Do you want a U?
Will it affect me from getting my?
I mean, I don't know. I can't answer that question because I won't have any evidence, and I'll basically just say you failed. I don't know if that'll count against you. I don't know if it's the same thing as skipping an AICE exam like it used to be. Skipping an AICE exam is a very big no-no, and they do report that to your colleges and stuff like that. With them being the way they are this year, I don't know. I don't suggest it because it looks really bad. And I mean, it's not like it's going to take a tremendous amount of time, hopefully. I mean, it should take like a week or 2 at most. I mean, that's up to you. I can't make you come and do it because your last day is the 11th. What if you don't want to come anymore, I'll give you basically a test on like the 13th if you want. You can take that test. I'll give you your grade based on that. That would be my suggestion to you. I don't suggest it, but if that's what you really want to do, I can't stop you.
No, I mean I'll take it. I just didn't know if like I was like an actual requirement because I mean I'm already like pretty much set. So I mean I just wanted to know. I mean I'm
A
probably
lot,
cool.
a lot of you I know are set with your ACE exams and things like that. I can't make these decisions. I'm just going to let you know that it looks really bad when you don't pass this ACE exam because the way they are this year. So there's pretty much no reason not to pass the ACE exam for anybody, as long as you're willing to put the work in. But here's what I'm doing as far as the timelines go, is for the next 2 weeks, during class time, because I know you guys, I told you you didn't have to show up to class, and that's fine. I'm going to go over past ACE exam or past AP exams for the next 2 weeks on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I highly suggest you show up if you want to pass your AP exam, which a lot of you should. I'm going to go over that kind of stuff and go over some different things. So starting tomorrow, I will be doing those past exams. I'll be working them. If you want to know which ones, you can look at them ahead of time. I'll tell you which ones I'm working when. But these will be the released free response questions. And then at the end of next week, I have a mock AP exam I'm going to give to you and then go over. So if you want to show up to class, that's up to you. I highly suggest you show up to class so you have an idea and start seeing what some of these AP exams look like instead of just the AP classroom stuff. So you can see what an actual AP exam looked like. I'll go over the answers and the rubric and stuff like that. So I definitely suggest you show up to class. If you show up to class, I will suspend the requirement for you doing your AP classroom work as well.
I have work tomorrow morning. I mean I may be back by the time we have our physics class, but like is that okay if I like actually like it's only tomorrow though, like it's no other day.
That's fine. Yeah, it's not a big deal, buddy.
Will that still suspend my AP classroom?
You'll have to do one. Or
Oh.
I'll give you if you can prove to me that you watched the video that I post, I will waive the AP classroom for that as well.
Bruh, the AP classroom, I mean, not the AP reviews for Calc are kind of funny.
Yes, like I said, and in case you've forgotten about those, definitely you guys should be watching the AP reviews that are done